All right, let's get you out to the ground now. Joining us live first from Trump National Doral is our correspondent Leonardo Feldman. I see a lot of folks out there, a lot of MAGA gear, and a lot of honking happening behind you, Leo. What's happening?
Well, Bianca, that's right. I mean, more supporters have gathered here right outside his resort in Doral, Florida. I've seen about, 20 or so supporters, and more are expected to get here as Trump is expected to make it here later today. We know that Trump is expected to sleep here overnight, this ahead of his arraignment tomorrow at the federal courthouse in downtown Miami. What I can tell you is that the former president is facing 37 felony counts in a federal indictment related to the classified documents investigation at his residence in Palm Beach, Mar-a-Lago. Trump is reportedly meeting today with potential new lawyers days after John Raleigh and Jim Trusty, a couple of his legal representatives, resigned. And on Friday, Trump posted this on Truth Social. "I will be represented by Todd Blanche-esque and a firm to be named later. I want to thank Jim Trusty and John Raleigh for their work, but they were up against a very dishonest, corrupt, evil, and sick group of people, the likes of which has not been seen before. We will be announcing additional lawyers in the coming days." And we know that Miami has ramped up security ahead of Trump's first court appearance tomorrow at 3 p.m. at the Wilkie Ferguson Federal Courthouse in downtown Miami. Back to you.
All right, Leonardo Feldman, keep a good watch there. We'll check back in with you. And again, a live look here, Miami International Airport. Trump is expected to land at about 2:45, so just a short time from now, he has left New Jersey. Now, that you just heard, there's going to be obviously some plans about when he arrives tomorrow. In fact, the city of Miami officials, the mayor and the chief of police, will be telling us about some of the security plans. They're holding a news conference today at 2 o'clock, so in about an hour, regarding Trump's arrival. But we know preparations are already underway in South Florida with security measures. There's a lot of traffic impacts, and again, security will be very tight tomorrow as Trump enters into the courthouse through an underground tunnel. Stay with us for more. Again, we're watching Miami International for you. And we were also watching Bedminster, New Jersey. Of course, that's where the former president left just before noon today. You can see the motorcade there as he exited. He will also be back there, though, very quickly, folks. He may be arraigned tomorrow at 3, but he'll be back in Bedminster tomorrow evening. It was an event that was already planned, but now it seems like it's taking a turn to be a fundraising moment that will have even more impact. And let's get out to our correspondent, John Glasgow, who's been at Bedminster all morning for us and all afternoon. A lot quieter than what we see in Doral, John, but nonetheless, things did go off without a hitch there.
Absolutely. You know, as you mentioned, there was far less, other than media that were out here, that were watching his golf club here in Bedminster. And it was around 11:30 when Trump's motorcade left the golf club, making its way to Trump Force One, where he got on that plane, as we just saw, and is off to Miami. Now, he will have a quick trip in Florida, and then he'll be heading back here to Bedminster for that speech that he's going to have tomorrow night. It'll be interesting to see what he says at that speech and what he's legally allowed to say based on what we saw in Manhattan. They didn't put a gag order in that case, but he was very limited as to what he could say on the campaign trail about some of these charges that he's facing. And this charge that he's now facing, the 37 counts, much more serious on the federal level. But it didn't stop the former president from campaigning on the weekend. He was in North Carolina, he was in Georgia after that indictment came down. So he was out discrediting these charges, and this is what he had to say at one of those events. Listen here.
And as president, all of my documents fell under what is known as the Presidential Records Act, which is not at all a criminal act. Everything. It's all judged by the Presidential Records Act. In this whole fake indictment, they don't even once mention the Presidential Records Act, which is really the ruling act, which this case falls under 100%.
So as mentioned, former president will be have his first appearance tomorrow in Florida, where it's expected that he will be read the charges formally, and then he will have to put in a plea, which he's already expected to plead not guilty to these charges. So that it will be a historic moment, as a lot of people will be watching this. And then, as I mentioned, quick trip back here to Bedminster, where he will address his supporters here at his golf club, and it'll be interesting to see what he says. And we will be there live covering it, and we will bring you all of the recap. Back to you.
It will be interesting on such a historic day. John Glasgow live for us in Bedminster, New Jersey. Thanks. Good to have you in. All right, let's bring in former California Congressman and Truth Social CEO Devin Nunes to get sort of a pulse on what he's thinking and feeling about Donald Trump today. Devin, always great to have you in. Have you spoken with the former president in the past day or so? And how do you think he's feeling now as we watch him sort of travel around the campaign trail, but now travel to an arraignment down in Miami?
Well, I actually haven't spoken to him since the night of the indictment was announced. I did speak to him briefly that night. But I can tell you, Bianca, here's the fog that's being created. And even you guys at Newsmax are calling this a classified document case. That is not what the indictment actually is. They are not charging the president with mishandling of classified documents, even though all the news out there, and I think this was done deliberately by the corrupt Department of Justice, because all through that indictment, it talks about classified documents, but they don't actually bring a charge about classified documents. They go to a 100-year-old law, Espionage Act, and even there, they're very careful about what they say. So they've changed the definition of what everybody has been talking about in the fake news, classified documents, classified documents, classified documents. Now they've changed it to national defense information in order to make a statute from World War I apply to the president.
Devin, it's a great distinction. It's a great distinction. No, again, but it isn't part of that, because if they went with the Records Act, it's civil. This would never be in a federal case. So the Espionage Act, and again, to your point, it's not lost on us here, but the Espionage Act, wouldn't that even be harder for Jack Smith and his prosecutors to try and prove something like that? I mean, we're talking about, if you read the indictment closely, just showing people things. And again, it doesn't seem, we had Christina Bob on saying that these attorneys that he will assemble will be able to attack this in many ways.
Well, look, as somebody who dealt with classified documents for many, many years, in my old role, I was chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. I was around when General Petraeus pled to a misdemeanor. I was around when Hillary Clinton wasn't charged. I was even around in Congress when Sandy Berger, in the Clinton lawyer, went in and stole documents from the National Archives in the SOX. So what I'm saying here is that this is the classic show me the man and I'll show you the crime. That's what they've done to the president here. They are changing the term, even though if somebody reads that, a layman, just the average person on the street reads that indictment, you think, wow, this is really about a bunch of classified documents. In fact, it's not about that.
Right.
And so I think the other issue is the predicate for this is also, I think, very concerning to me. They raided Mar-a-Lago, and supposedly this was on a referral from the National Archives, who are totally corrupt, by the way. But we found out last week that when the archivist was put under oath by the Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee, he said that there were two documents that he was concerned about, one of which was a letter from Obama to Trump. The other was a letter from Kim Jong-un to President Trump. Now, wait a second. You make a criminal referral on that? I mean, how are those not President Trump's? I think any American would know letters to the president are his.
Well, clearly, these are all things that... clearly, these are all things that his legal team will be kind of looking at and sorting through. As you mentioned, if it was those two pieces, where are they, and what was the why wasn't, again, this under the archivist, and why did it end up over here? Devin, I wish we had more time. I wish we had more time, but come back real soon. And we know tomorrow's a momentous day, so we'll get your reaction to all of that happens as well. So thank you, Devin. Appreciate your time today, sir.